Hi, this is CK with today's advice for life. I'm continuing in my series on public speaking, and today I want to cover the item that has to do with anticipating questions. This is so important. Even if you don't have a question and answer, so now whenever I speak in public, whenever I've done that, whether it's for work, whether it's for just educational purposes, I've done it in different forums like that. Whatever it is, I always anticipate questions. Even if I might not have a separate question and answer session, the thing that happens when you anticipate questions is that you make a better delivery. You have a better speaking session if you're anticipating questions. Because remember, when you are speaking in public, the most effective kind of speaking is if you are answering people's questions. If you are answering questions that nobody is asking or nobody is wondering about, you're not going to be very effective. So when you go out there, when you're talking to people, you want what you are talking about, you want that to scratch that itch. You want that to resolve some problem. You want that to take care and answer some question that somebody is asking. And so if you anticipate questions, it'll help you prepare better. Okay. So, but also, if you anticipate questions, if you do have a question and answer session, then you have less of a chance that you'll get stumped. And now what happens when somebody asks you a question and they stumped you? You don't know what the answer is. I'm going to cover that in another video, okay? Not in this one. So stay tuned for that one. But here, when you anticipate questions, okay, you got to really sit down. This is the thing though. The thing that makes this sometimes difficult, you as a speaker sometimes can't anticipate questions well. You might think that you know your audience, and you might think, oh, these are the questions they'll probably ask, okay? But there may be 10 more that you didn't even think about. And this is a problem. When I was an engineer also, engineers have this problem too. In my line of engineering, I was an industrial engineer, but a subset of industrial engineering is human factors. And human factors considers the human elements in design. So for example, if you are designing a dashboard in a car, if you're designing a chair in a car, let's, as an example, what kind of colors, what kind of font, what size font, where should they be placed, what spacing do I need? All of these things are not random. These are designed by people who understand human factors and computer user interface design and things like that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that when I was an engineer, I was told, and somebody told me, gave me great advice when I was a young engineer, you engineers sometimes think that you know, but a lot of times you don't really know what it's like to be the consumer, to be the customer. So rather than you thinking you're the customer and you doing things and you designing things and testing it only on yourself, make sure you get real customers and real consumers and get real feedback from real people who actually use the products and the services so that you have a real feel and an authentic feedback and data so that you can design your thing better. And this is the same thing in public speaking. You might think you know your audience. You might think that, oh, I know what they're going to ask me. Okay, maybe you do. Maybe you can pick up a few things. But there are some things that you're not going to anticipate. There are some things that, oh man, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. Okay? As I was speaking, questions came up in the audience's mind. And at the end, somebody's raising their hand. Somebody asks, could you tell me more about that? Could you give me more details about that? Could you? And you're not prepared. That's embarrassing. Okay? And that has happened to me before. It has probably happened to every speaker. But here's the thing. And there are ways to overcome that. Okay? But you want to minimize that. Sometimes you can't eliminate it. Sometimes you can, hopefully. But if you cannot eliminate it, at least you got to minimize that. And that is by anticipating questions. So when you are talking about a specific topic, especially with the internet now, I mean, you can Google things, right? You can Google things that pertain to that thing. And a lot of questions might come up. A lot of issues, a lot of items that people are talking about, so you can get some things off of there. You can even Google in questions about, and then you can see what kind of questions people are asking about that. You can ask someone who has nothing to do with your field and or whatever you're talking about. So what kind of questions would you have? Like, what are some of the questions you would have on and whatever topic you're talking about, and get their feedback. Get feedback from people who are not in your industry, who are not in your field of expertise. and just ask, like, what do you think are some general questions, like common questions you think people would have about this? What questions would you have about this? And the more feedback you get, okay, and the more ideas you get about what kind of questions people might ask, the better you'll be prepared, and the more you can, and more accurately you can anticipate. When I was working in the government, I'll tell you a story. When I was working in the government, well, I had to make this, I had to go up in front of, I think it was about 20 people, and these were decision makers. I had a project that I was doing for the government and for an agency. In order to do it, I needed $300,000. And so that was my estimate on how much I needed to do that project. So I went to my boss and I said, hey, boss, I think I could do this for $300,000. He said, all right, cool. Let's go to the director and let's talk to him about it. So we talked to him and he says, yeah, if you know, I'll support you. But we don't have the $300,000. You're going to have to go to the trustee's office and you're going to go make a presentation. You're going to have to convince them to give you $300,000. Okay, so my job was to go, and I took several people with me and my boss. We all went. There's, like 5 in our group, but I gave the presentation, and I was there to basically convince people that they should give the agency $300,000 so that I can implement a project to help fix whatever problem we were having in our agency. That was my job. So I went there. And I was told, when you get there, the chief of police is going to be there. When you get there, the trustee's office board member is going to be there. When you get there, the city council member is going to be there. And by the way, the city council member, she's a good friend of Hillary Clinton's, okay? And there's going to be a lot of people. There's like 20 people there, and she said, oh, we're warning about this one lady. That one lady, that one lady who's a city council member, she's going to ask tough questions. She's always known for doing that. She's going to nitpick at the stuff that you say because you are asking for money, and they don't necessarily want to give it. So I went there and I anticipated question. What could they ask? What kind of things? So I know what kind of presentation I want to give. And I base it on, I know what kind of problems they were having. See, when I arrived in the government, they had a problem that didn't go away for 30 some years. And I was hired basically to get rid of that problem, to fix that problem. And I had never encountered that kind of problem before. I didn't know. I never worked in the government before. Okay, so I asked a lot of questions just to understand the whole situation and the problem. And by that time, I spent probably a year trying to understand. So I felt like I had a really good understanding, an in-depth understanding of what was going on and what was needed and what the situation, what the problems were, what the solutions were. Okay, so I had the solutions, but I also understood the problems. I made sure I understood them really, really well. I made sure that I answered all of the questions that people were asking, because we were in the Washington Post newspaper, not in a good way. Okay, the department was getting sued, and I mean, this was not good back then. So my job was to fix that. And so I had to look at all the different kinds of questions, the critiques, the different kinds of issues that were there that they wanted fixed, and I needed to address all of those. And I felt pretty sure that I had all those in mind. But at the last minute, about 5 or 10 minutes before it was my turn, and I was going to speak in front of everyone. Man, I thought of this one question, and I thought to myself, I don't have anything in my presentation to address it. I don't have anything in my mind to address that issue. So I turned to my coworker. She was awesome. She was a lady who had been working there for like 30 years. She knew everything about everything. Okay, so I asked her. Her name was Cheryl. I said, Cheryl, you know that thing, whatever, and I forgot what the question was, but I asked her about that, and she answered me and gave me the answer to that. Okay, so I said, oh, okay, I got that. So I went up there, I gave about a 20-minute presentation. People started asking questions. So I answered the question, answered the question, and sure enough, this lady, okay, the city council member, who was supposed to be very picky and very aggressive, she raised her hand. And when she raised her hand, I said, oh no, here we go. So she raised her hand and I said, yes, ma'am. And she asked me, you know what question she asked me? She asked me the question that I thought of 10 minutes before I gave the presentation. And so I just held back. I just smiled. I listened to her and I acted like I've been preparing for this for 10 years, but I just like 10 minutes ago got the answer. And I said, yeah, that's a great question. And actually we're going to address that this way, blah, 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 blah. And we expect blah. And I gave my thing. And she seemed very satisfied. She's like, oh, great, thank you. And that was the last question she asked. And then everybody else, I gave the presentation. In the end, the board, the trustee's office, the head of the trustee's office, agreed to give us the full amount for $300,000. My boss was so happy. Our director was happy. I was happy. Everybody's happy. Okay, that was a great ending right there. But that was something I did in the government when I was working for the Department of Corrections in D.C. For when I was there for about 6 years, and that was a wonderful experience. But I had to do a lot of that stuff. I was called to a judge's a courtroom one time too to give a presentation. So, doing a lot of presentations and public speaking. Like I said, I love doing it. I don't back down from it. I love it. I really do love it. I really do love sharing the information and sharing my passion for whatever it is that I'm talking about, and sharing my solutions to the problems when I was an engineer. I mean, I love the thing, but it's so important that you anticipate problems. And I think one of the best ways to anticipate problems is to think about the problem. Did I say anticipate? The best way to anticipate questions, not problems, is to understand the problem well. Whatever you are speaking on, usually it's going to address a problem of some sort. So understand the problem firsthand, understand it really well. And the better you understand the problem, and the more in-depth thinking you've done about how to resolve that problem and how to fix that problem, and how to overcome whatever fear people might have, and how to meet the needs of people. Okay, and these are all kinds of things. And if you think about these in detail, you're going to get more questions, and you're going to be able to better anticipate what people are talking about. In my field, I'm in education, I'm in college prep, I'm in SAT. Most of my students, they're high school students. Well, all my students are high school students. So I always think about and anticipate what are the questions that kids would wonder about and ask. And since I've been doing this for 12, 13 years, I've been asked every kind of question about college prep, about SAT, about, on and on and on. So, and then parents, what do parents think about? What do parents worry about? What do parents need? What do parents desire? What problems do they need fixed? What problems do they have? And so as I consider those problems and those issues and those anxieties, I come up with a much more detailed and in-depth list of questions that people would think. So when I'm doing a seminar, like a college prep seminar, and I've done several of those, there's not really any questions anymore that come up that I can't answer, because I've been through that process for so many years, and I've done that so many times. Okay, so anticipate, understand the problems, and anticipate. That's going to make you a better public speaker. That's my advice for today. Now go to my channel and click on playlist, and you're going to see 5 categories. You're going to see college prep. You're going to see career advice. You're going to see parenting advice, money advice, and mindset advice. And you can click on any one of those playlist categories and listen to my advice on that specific topic. So pick whichever one is most helpful to you. And thanks for watching this video. And until my next one, I hope you stay well.